Presidential politics now in the run-up to the start of the 2016 presidential campaign. Yes, I know Election Day is still 42 months away, and the first primaries don't happen until December of 2015.
That's
but
soon?
The jockeying, yes, it's coming. It's coming. The jockeying for position and the chatter is well underway. How can you tell? Well, because every time Hillary Clinton appears in public these days, she's mobbed with press and the pundits start to pundify. Last week, the former Secretary of State appeared at an event celebrating women at Lincoln Center, and wham! Instantly, we got 136 reports about whether she's running or not. Of course, there's little or no debate that if Hillary Clinton decides to run, she enters the race as the front runner for both the Democratic nomination and for the general election as well. But Hillary ain't the only one who would like to be president come 2017. In a normal cycle, Vice President Joe Biden would probably be in a strong position, serving under a relatively popular president, usually a good step to help get you to the White House, or at least to the nomination. Worked for George Bush, the first one. Didn't work so much for Al Gore, though. Biden has been getting out there a bit more lately, taking the lead for the administration on guns. He's set to appear on Morning Joe this Thursday. And don't forget about other Democratic candidates as well. New York Governor, potential candidates. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley have been mentioned in 2016 talk. Both have been pushing very progressive agendas in their state, something that could appeal to voters in a Democratic primary. O'Malley has also been among the most bookable Democrats in the political talk show circuit lately, while Cuomo has continued to keep the press somewhat at arm's length. And Evan, let me focus on you as coming from the Democratic side. What do you do if you're Joe Biden? What's your advice to Joe Biden to keep himself relevant and also a potential alternate for Hillary Clinton?
Well, it looks like he's doing what you're supposed to do, which is have your own agenda that the White House has signed off on, that you can be a point person on, you can make some progress on. They gave him guns. He hasn't been as out in front, sort of strangely lately, about it, as he was initially when he convened the group that basically came up with what we're going to be voting on this week. But it worked for him. He's doing fairly well. He's well thought of as a vice president.
Does he have to figure out a way to keep his name in the papers?
Yes, strangely, being, I guess the second most technically powerful person in the country. But no, you have to have a plan. Here's what my three issues are going to be. Here's how I'm going to accomplish in the final 4 years I'm in the White House, at least until hopefully I'm running it. My goals on these three issues, and then you run on that.
What would your suggestion be to other potential candidates out there? I mean, the Cuomos and O'Malleys have been pushing very progressive agendas in their states.
Yeah, so it's well documented, but whereas my old boss, Andrew Cuomo, went what some people would call right during his first few years as governor, he's gone much more typically left, which is, by the way, I think who he is, actually, much more liberal guy. And he does have to take a little bit more extreme positions, not that that's against, I think, his nature, but to stand out against people that have a longer record in public office like Biden and Clinton, who have moved to the center over and over again. And you're going to see that. You're going to see that with, I think, this public corruption push that he got to today and he's been doing lately and other things.
How much of a supernova is Hillary in all of this? If she runs, it's nobody else, right? It's just her?
She's obliterating. I mean, she is. Yes. No, I mean, I think that she's first of all, she's a rock star. I mean, she's been a rock star since she was first lady. It's not just 100 reporters following her now. It's always been 100 reporters, at least for the last 25 years. And it's an incredible thing to be around. But it's good to be Hillary Clinton. She's got a huge approval rating. She's never going to get any better, by the way. And she can just sit back and plan and then run.
And she learned lots of lessons. They made some big mistakes, and she's got to want to say, I learned those lessons, that I want a chance to, have benefited from that. But and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but a lot of Republicans think more kindly of her in contrast to the president. The president has kind of made Hillary Clinton look almost acceptable. The only time she didn't look acceptable was when she came to the Benghazi hearing and started to revert back to this, kind of defensive Hillary Clinton. Right. But if she can get that aside, she's going to be incredibly strong.
And I was saying to Congressman earlier, I actually agree with him for the general election on Benghazi and how she handled that. But for primary voters like me and people on my side of the aisle, we loved seeing that old school Hillary.
I'm glad you brought up the primary, and I want to balance this conversation out because possible Republican candidates have also been positioning or considering their positions these days. Some potential candidates like New Jersey's Chris Christie have been moving ever so slightly towards the center of the political spectrum. Hope is that a more moderate candidate would make them more electable in the general election. Electability is certainly a key factor for lots of primary voters, whether Democratic or Republican. And if you need any more proof that Chris Christie seems to be trying to appeal to the center, when's the last time you saw him blow up at somebody at an event in classic Chris Christie style? It's like he's toned it down a little bit. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush has also been trying the more moderate approach. He's complained the GOP has moved too far right, and something of a shifting stance on immigration reform as he's trying to take the temperature of voters. Then there's the other Republican approach for 2016, which is go right. Paul Ryan, just months after his VP run ended, came out with a budget proposal that called for even more cuts than the budget that he was selling during the election. And then you get Rand Paul, who's scoring points among conservatives and the libertarian base that had supported his father, Ron Paul, in the last 2 election cycles. Congressman, what would your advice be to potential Republican candidates out there? You've faced issues like this.
You know what they need to do? They need to do.
Vote their conscience?
Christie needs to be the best governor he can be. Paul Ryan wasn't trying to go right. He was just trying to say, you know, we've got a country to run, and we need a budget that's not going to bankrupt us in the future. I don't think he felt that this budget made him look, you know, as a more attractive candidate. I know him well. He really believes, and I agree with him, that we've got some heavy lifting, and that's his job.
But it certainly doesn't hurt him with very conservative voters
No,
who he would need to court if he's running for president in 2016.
It doesn't hurt him, but it doesn't help him with a lot of voters. You know, he becomes the focus of a big, powerful Democratic machine.
You've been through some measure of this yourself. I'm thinking of your primary run against Linda McMahon. Do you try to jockey somebody for the hearts and minds in the primary and present yourself in the Republicans' case as the most conservative option out there because that plays well in the primary, or do you play towards more moderate positions in the general election and I'm more electable? It
used to be that every presidential candidate, let's take the president, they would get their party's nomination and they would comfortably come to the center where about 75% of the American people are, or 60%. But in a primary that I was in, I wanted people like the NRA to know they could talk with me, that I was reasonable, but I am what I am. And you know, I didn't want to win the primary, lose the general election, and I got my wish. I didn't win the primary.
Well, and also thinking, Mitt Romney in the last campaign spent a lot of time moving to the right as he set up for the primary process, and tried to appeal to the right as best, and then had trouble walking that back.
It wasn't believable. I mean, there was just too much that it just sounded insincere. As you say, people have to believe you in the end that it's in your gut.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And in the you know, when he was caught making the 47% comment, I mean, it gave people the impression on video of what I think they had feared, which is that he was trying to be two people. And the irony there is that he might have actually not been the person that was saying the 47% comment. He might have actually been trying to be that guy in order to win the primary at that moment, which is kind of terrifying.
Well, the one thing I think I know for certain about 2016, the two nominees will not be Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. I'm pretty sure of. I'm definitely sure of one. I'm pretty sure of the other.
And the other is, we got a country to run in the meantime. I hope we don't get too far into this presidential thing.
No, but it's fun to dip into from time to time.
Fun for
The
you.
headlines
Fun
were
for these
popping out
guys.
on us after the Hillary. All right, lesson learned, Congressman. Thank you. Up next on RFL, stop and frisk on trial as that massive suit against the NYPD was on to its most anticipated witness. What secrets came out as the top man to testify for the department took the stand today? Our Dominic Carter was in the courtroom. He joins us live next.